Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar session. I really hope that you'll enjoy it with us. Just before we start, please ensure that your audio settings are on such a level that you can hear me properly. And let's just get those slides there. Let's give a few minutes as well for some of our webinar attendees to join. We'll give a moment or two before we start. If your audio settings is turned up high enough, the volume is loud enough so that you can hear me properly, then you can have a look on your right-hand side. There's a little panel there. I actually see someone already have their hand up, raise their hand. I hope it's some of our attendees that's been with us for a while, that's raising their hands, that know this is what's happening at the moment. We're asking you if you can hear us properly. We're seeing a lot of hands raised. Welcome. It's fantastic to have so many people joining us this afternoon. We'll give just one more minute and then we'll start. As always, we have Marika assisting on the technical side of things. Marika is from our marketing department. She's also setting up the webinar, so many of you will recognize the name, receive the invitations from Marika. And then we have Rihanna with us today. A lot of you might also know Rihanna. She's part of the sales team. She heads up the sales for the home division, which I'll talk a bit about later on. And then Brad will also shortly join us to assist with the presentation. So as you can see, it says information session 12th of March. Clearly, we forgot to change the date, but looked at the overall slides at least to give you a good view of where we are. We will definitely allow for questions at the end of some of the sections. We'll give a moment or two so that you can ask a question and then we'll move on again. And then right at the end, there will be plenty of time for questions. So we're not going to hold you up too long with a lengthy presentation. So I think most have joined us. On the right-hand panel, not only can you raise your hand to ask a question, but there's also a question box. The question box helps us a lot. So if we don't get to your question for one or the other reason during the presentation, please ensure that you write the question to us. During our presentation, we always try and keep up with some of the questions as well in the question box. So you're welcome to post it there, but you can also ask the questions when you raise your hand. There's also a section called handouts. At handouts, Marika has posted the PDF of this presentation that you can download for further reference. So let's jump right into it. My name is Suzanne Prinsloo. I'm head of client engagement at Impaq, and it's really a pleasure to be spending some time with you this afternoon. First of all, let's do a little bit of an overview of Impaq. So Impaq is part of the Optimi Group. Some of you might still remember the name FutureLearn. We've rebranded at the end of last year, and the company is now called Optimi. And part of that whole rebranding was actually the acquisition of quite a number of additional companies, because we're really looking to provide almost a cradle to grave kind of education approach. Optimi Home is where Impaq is situated. So Optimi Home is where we have home education and after school tutoring. At the moment, there's about 22,000 learners and about 1,500 tutors that makes use of our products and services in that entire division. Classroom mainly consists of a company called ITSI, as well as other offerings that was specifically designed for the school's environment. there's also some tertiary institutions that makes use of the classroom products and services. There's about 2 universities and just more than 1,500 schools that currently makes use of that. The Optimi Workplace focuses on training within the workplace. And our Optimi College is an accredited college for with a lot of accredited courses and short courses. Currently just more than 5,300 students that they look after. So that is the whole Optimi group and where Impaq falls into. So Impaq is a home and distance learning provider. We have learner resources, facilitation materials and support, and formal assessment products and services. We have printed and e-learning options, including an integrated online learning platform, and we'll go into a lot more detail on the product and what it is all about later on. We also have practice software for 21st century learners. That's our Cami product, and I know that Brad will go into a lot more detail on that, as well as Quanta, a physical sciences learning aids for grade 10 to 12 learners. And then obviously our FET college, the Optimi Lynnwood campus, which we'll also talk a bit more about later on. Impaq is currently the largest home education curriculum provider in South Africa. We have just more than 18,000 learners making use of our curriculum products and services, and we have more than 17 years of experience in this field. And we provide products and services, the tools that every child needs to complete their grade R straight through to grade 12 at home. We also support a large network of independent tutors as yourselves, and Impaq is owned by the PSG Group. The Optimi Group is owned by PSG. So my main role today is to provide a bit of an overview on the law and how this affects tutoring and home education in general. So I'll try not to hamper too long on this, because I know there's often a lot of questions in terms of this, and you are more than welcome to ask questions about this later on, and we'll answer as much as we can. So first of all, let's just look at what home education is basically. Home education means a purposeful program of education for a learner, alternative to school attendance, which is provided under the direction of the learner's parent primarily in the environment of the learner's home. This is how it's currently defined in the Bella Bill, which is obviously still under scrutiny, but it basically fits into what the current Department of Education looks at in terms of home education. It may include tutorial or other educational support services that's secured by the parent, and it needs to meet the requirements for registration of a learner for home education contemplated in section 51(2), and there's a whole spiel about what the bill requires. What is really important to know about the legislation, the current legislation, is that a parent of a learner who is of compulsory school-going age may apply to the head of the department for the registration of the learner to receive home education. So the law clearly makes provision for the fact that children may be schooled at home. And then obviously there's a whole process in terms of this where the head of department approves that application. We often do get the question, but can they, for one reason or the other, decide to not approve the application? And even though that does not happen on a very regular basis, we do tell parents that they really need to make very certain that the documentation that they provide, that the information that they provide is correct, and that it is within the guidelines that the law sets forward. Within the law, the parent undertakes to make a suitable educational resources available to support the learner's learning, that they monitor that learner's learning, that they arrange for the learner's educational attainment to be assessed annually, and that they also provide the head of department with a learner's assessment report signed by that competent assessor. And a parent may, after a learner has completed grade 9, so previously I referred to at the compulsory school going age, that's obviously grade 1 to grade 9. It's around about the age of 15. After this, the parent can decide, or the learner can decide, to enroll at a public school or an independent school for the completion of their grade 10 to 12, or they can decide to enroll with a distance education provider such as Impaq. So the role of the tutor within the law. And this is often the question that tutors ask, but because we talk about the parent the entire time, we say that the parent is this primary responsible party. So where does the tutor fall into this? So the role of a tutor as described within the current law is that a tutor provides supplementary education services to learners registered at either a public school, a private school, or for home education. But the emphasis there is on the supplementary education services. So the current challenges that tutors face is that there's an increasing focus of authorities to clamp down on centres operating as schools. This is normally when a tutor, business, or centre presents themselves as being a school. Only a school registered with the Department of Education with an EMIS number may refer to themselves as a school. Any other institution operating like a school or calling themselves a school is not within the law. So the provincial education departments also use various methods to close centres masquerading as schools. So they often do inspections when reports received or with it, and it's completely within the PED's right to close down an illegal school as they so-called see it. A note here, Impaq does have a legal department where tutors registered to use our products and services often contact our legal department because there are instances where the department will do a home visit or will do a visit at the tutor center and find that it is not a school and would like to close them down immediately. And obviously there's procedures to follow and they've got to give you reasons in writing. You need to have time to be able to reply to those allegations and need to be able to be given the opportunity to set the record straight. So they can't just come into your place of business and tell you to close down. So it's not just that simple. There's also no provision for a tutor center as a formal educational institution. So like I've said before, only a school that's registered with the Department of Education with an EMIS number has that right. So there's really gray area within the law at the moment where you as a tutor may supply the tutor services to a learner, but you're not allowed to operate as a school or a typical educational institution. And there's also no ability for you to register learners with the Department of Education. Impaq can also not register learners at the Department of Education. It is only the parent that can do so. And this is really important to understand because the parents need to understand that it is their responsibility to register their child at the Department of Education. So what does it mean if we say operate as a school, or what should a tutor look like, or what should a tutor not look like? So it's very difficult for us to give you clear guidelines on this is exactly what a tutor center looks like. Because the law is so grey in terms of this, because the law only provides for that extra services that you're supposed to provide to the primary facilitator, which is the parent. So a tutor, the things that we have learned through the years, where a tutor will not be seen as a school, is where you provide extra classes. So where the responsibility for home education remains with the parents. When you do not call yourself a school. So if the word school comes in anywhere, even the word homeschooling, you cannot, by definition of the law, provide homeschooling. It is the parents' responsibility to provide schooling for their children, you the support. Do not perform official assessments. The moment that you perform an official assessment or that you use assessments to score learners and provide a report card, that would not be seen as a valid report card. And also, obviously, when learners are making use of Impaq's curriculum, yet they are not registered with us, there are quite a number of issues in terms of that. Also, at the moment that you charge school fees, again seen as a school, rather tutor per hour or per subject, even if you support that learner with all of their subjects, make sure that your agreement with the parent is of such that you list the services you provide clearly and that you clearly state the kind of services that you provide and what you charge for those services. Do keep in mind that attendance is not compulsory, and we know this is a thing that tutors often ask us about. The parent decides to not bring the child. It's the parent's responsibility. The parent should decide. So if the parent decides not to bring that learner, make sure that your agreement with the parent is of such that you've stated in your agreement what your role is and what their role is, and that they know you're going to have a conversation with them when a child should be there for a lesson and they aren't. Which brings us to that contractual relationship. It is really very important to have a proper contract in place with your parents. Have a proper agreement which you can fall back on. Make sure they understand your role and they understand their own role. And do not copy Impaq's material. We know that many tutors are ex-teachers and they want to help the kids and they want to copy some of the books and want to provide them with that content. It is copyright infringement and it's punishable by 100,000 Rand. So just briefly, the role of a tutor, I think I've mentioned so many of these already, but just to quickly touch on it, it's still to provide a safe environment to facilitate learning. So again, we often get asked, so what does my center need to look like? The facility where I'll be teaching these kids, what should it look like? Whether you're teaching one child or whether you have a group of learners that attend certain lessons or where you're assisting them, it's still a public facility and that it should comply at least with the minimum health and safety requirements as per your municipality. Guide the parent in proper administration of the learners' work throughout their academic year. Bringing them into that working role, make them responsible as well. And explain the relationship, that they know where you fit in, where they fit in, and encourage parents to take responsibility. Also assist learners with the products as purchased, and then also guide learners through their work to ensure that they study optimally for their tests and exams. Do provide individualized attention. That is what tutoring services are about, and do provide them with subject-specific assistance. Invigilation, obviously, once approved, those tutors that joined us today who's already registered with Impaq would have seen our emails in this regard in terms of the invigilation. There's approval needed for that, especially in the grade 10 to 12 phase. There are quite a number of regulations in terms of adhering to what Sakai's rules and regulations are. There's compliance that needs to be kept in mind. And these apply obviously to the examinations, which needs to happen in a very strict and controlled environment. Don't distribute report cards, and that we've mentioned, and don't use our logo without gaining the necessary permission to use our logo. So I know that there might be quite a number of questions with reference to the legalities. You are more than welcome to ask a couple of questions. Marika, I see that there's quite a number of people where the hands are raised, but it looks like those hands are raised from before. So my apologies if I perhaps put your hand down. I lower your hand and you're actually wanting to ask a question. So let's just hold on a moment. Yeah. Okay. Is there any particular questions that I can quickly answer in terms of the legalities? I see Marintia has got a question. What is the startup fee to start an Impaq homeschool? Marintia, we'll get to that in a moment. I know that Brad will go through all of the registration requirements. Andrea says, I'm still a full-time teacher. I will not be able to tutor full-time. It would be better for me if I could become a marker in future, please. Andrea, tutoring services isn't about tutoring full-time. Tutoring services can be one-on-one. It could be for a particular subject. It does not need to be full-time at all. So if that is something you want to do over weekends, or if you would like to do it over in the afternoons, then that is obviously something that you can have a look at. But if you are interested in becoming a marker, you can still send us your details and we can give it through to our assessment department. There's a question from Marissa in terms of, is there a specific amount to charge for tutoring? Unfortunately, Marissa, there's also no prescribed amounts. This refers again back to the law that says that it's tutoring services that you provide, so there's no specific fee or regulations in terms of fees. It would be a good idea for you to perhaps have a chat to some of the tutors in your area and get a feel of what they do charge for the services that they render. Again, it's a conversation between you and the parent. What is the legality regarding a cottage school? Charlene, it's a great question. Cottage schools are in fact illegal schools. And I know that there's a lot of pushback in terms of this, where they do say, but they are legal schools. But unfortunately, a cottage school is an illegal school. You can only be a school if you're registered with the Department of Education with an EMIS number. If it's a small independent school that decided to call them a cottage school, which it's most of the time not the case, they still need to produce their EMIS number to prove that they are indeed a school. The law does not make provision for any in between. It's either the parent home educating the learner, have the learner registered with the Department of Education, or a school registered with the Department of Education with an EMIS number. That, I think, is the very clear distinction. Anything in between those are not legal schools. I see there's another question. What would be a reasonable fee to charge? I've just answered. So there's no guidelines in terms of that. So let's do the questions a bit later on again. I see there's actually quite a number of hands. I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, let's let Brad get through his session, and then we'll definitely get to answering all of those questions. So Brad Gerard is actually based in Cape Town. He's part of our sales team, and Brad is joining us today for the very first time presenting, and it's quite exciting to have Brad here. So Marika, if you can assist us with that, then that would be highly appreciated.
Hi, Suzanne. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much. Okay, so I need to obviously take over in the presenting department, Suzanne, is that true?
That is correct. So you can start sharing your slides.
Okay.
And then you can switch on your camera so the people can see you.
My screen. Switch on my camera too. Okay. There we go. Am I there?
Your slides are there.
Okay, my slides are there. Can you see me?
Unfortunately, not yet.
Or maybe fortunately.
But that's okay. Let's continue. If you find your camera, then you can show your face to us.
Okay, great. There we go. I think my camera should be coming through.
There we go. Seeing you now.
Hi everyone. Okay, great. Good to see you. Good to see everyone. Yeah, as Suzanne mentioned, I am a consultant with Optimi and therefore Impaq, and I'm based in Western Cape. Impaq's consultants are divided according to regions. So you will deal with a specific consultant based on where you are. I do Western Cape, Northern Cape, and part of the Eastern Cape. As we go through the slides, there is a slide a little later on where we will be sharing, sorry, this is distracting seeing myself speak to myself. I need to either put this off or shrink it. Sorry about that, everyone. Let me just make that, okay. That's fine. Okay, great. So I don't see myself, I just see the slide. I will continue chatting. So for those of you who have not yet registered your tutor services with Impaq, you should have received an email from from a consultant, so your consultant based on your region. And in the email, you'll have an application form, a price list, as well as a bit more information about Impaq and the services that we offer. If you have not received that yet, please indicate for us in the questions so that we can make sure to send that to you as soon as possible. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through a couple of slides where we'll detail what we do for you as Impaq, as a tutor registered with us. I think something that Suzanne pointed out that is very important to keep in mind is that registering your business with us does not give us any formal ownership or relationship with you as a tutor center. It is your tutor center, your business. If you currently have a center, we are looking forward to working with you and going forward. If you're doing this for the first time and haven't done any tutoring before, bear that in mind. You are starting your own business independent of us, and we're providing you with a curriculum that we believe is very well suited for learners that are wanting to do homeschooling, and that we understand that tutors make an important part of that journey of homeschooling. We find that the majority of our learners actually make use of a tutor in one way or another. Just bearing in mind that, as Susanna has pointed out, you are not a school. That to me is a brilliant advantage. The reason a child is doing homeschooling is they don't fit into a school. So why would you want to be a school? Rather use the opportunity to define yourself as something that is very different to a school, a specialist service that helps them work through this curriculum that we offer. So how do I make it click? Sorry guys for that. There we go. Just taking a little while. Okay, my slide should have changed. Has my slide changed? Your slide? Assume so. I'll keep going. Okay, with the curriculum that we offer, I will go through in a little bit more detail how the curriculum is broken up and what you as a tutor get and what a parent gets. But specifically for you as a tutor, we offer a couple of things that make it easier for you to access information and to support your parents and your children who are registered with us to do homeschooling. First of those is online lesson material and content. So this comprises a system called guided learning, which I'll chat about in a sec, that gives your learners the ability to access online content, as well as My Impaq, which is the admin portal I'll chat about in a sec, and our website, as well as a YouTube channel that will give you access to great resources to assist in your teaching and learning. We also have an admin system for you called My Impaq. This is where you will get all of your assessments, where you'll upload your marks and everything to do with the administration of moving the learner through the grades. There are regular tutor information sessions and webinars. These information sessions, I must say, this is one of the first times in a while I've got to chat to tutors, because that's pretty much what we do as consultants. We travel around when there's no lockdown and we visit you and chat to you about what we do. And it's an important part of what we do is that we speak to our tutors and they speak back to us, and we understand what are the problems that you're going through, and then we look at how can we as Impaq, as Optimi, best meet those needs that present themselves. Webinars have been quite popular this year, and for some reason they are really popular right now. So we will definitely continue with the webinars going forward, even once we're allowed to travel and see each other. It's a very convenient way for you just to take some time out and quickly access what we'd like to share with you. We also have specific training courses and resources, such as reader and scribe courses. These need to mostly be done in person, so we schedule them from time to time in particular major centers such as Cape Town, Johannesburg, and so forth. So as long as you're able to get to a major center, you can then send yourself or your tutors to do these courses and become certified to be a reader or scribe. We also mark all components of grade 12 exams and assessments. That's actually a compulsory thing, but it is a service that we offer you. And then we also mark the grade 10 and 11 examinations. We also offer assistance and guidance through a team of dedicated TRAs. I think this is the most important part of what you will find going forward once you become registered with us, is that your TRA will be a critical part of your connection to Impaq and to everything that we do. Your TRA gets a dedicated set of tutors linked to them, and they're available for you in terms of any struggle that you have, either with your logging into My Impaq, accessing assessments and so forth, and they're your go-to person. From there, they have a very dedicated team that they can then lean on to make sure that we can answer all of your queries. You also have access to legal advice. Now, Suzanne mentioned quite a bit around the legalities of homeschooling and tutoring and so forth. And it does happen from time to time that the department will take issue with you. Usually it's because a neighbor's complained or something like that has happened. And in that instance, as long as you are doing what you need to do in terms of not being a school, then we can assist you with that. As I say, it doesn't happen all the time, but just be mindful of I'm not sure if it's you probably have heard of many different organizations that will assist you with this. What we as Impaq do is we have our own legal team, so it's not actually necessary to join another organization to do this, although that is your choice. You may join any organizations for homeschooling that you wish, and we will provide our legal service whenever you need it. We also provide a listing on the Impaq website for your center with a geotag as well, so that people can see exactly who is closest to them. And then I'll go through the supplementary products on that in a little bit as well. Something quite important is this online registration process. So we can register your learners with a physical form, but we try to save the trees. So as well as getting a bit more money for doing it online, which again we'll chat about in a sec, I would strongly advise you to use our online process, and we'll go through that in a sec as well, but it's much, much easier than sending us a paper tree form and making us wait for weeks and weeks and weeks. Okay, some important communication lines for you would be firstly email. So I mentioned to you that your TRA, your Tutor Relationship Administrator, is your primary contact person once you have registered with us. You will likely form a very close relationship with them, and they are available telephonically as well, but primarily use email to communicate with them. Our emails are ticketed, so it's easy to track any of your queries. You can see the email address there, tutorsupport@impaq.co.za, and you get assigned an H number, which is a unique center number. This H number helps us very easily identify who your TRA is and for them to identify who you are to help you going forward. So my suggestion would be in any email you send to your TRA, and again, this is once you've registered, then put your H number in the subject line. Also, something that really does help is if you have multiple queries, try to keep them focused on a particular area for a particular email. So if you are sending an email to your TRA about an academic query, as well as a finance query, maybe split them into two separate emails. It's quite fine to group maybe the finance queries together with the academic queries together, but they get sent on and ticketed and tracked, and it's easier for us to do that if you just group it in that way. Just a little tip to make sure you get help as quickly as possible. We also have a dedicated incoming telephone system. We have two separate support lines, so it's very important to bear in mind that we've got a center for parents and a center for tutors. So when you do call, specifically pick the Tutor Support Administrator, and then that line is manned to help you directly. The Facebook page is something I would say about that. It's not so much for you to get answers to queries. That rather go through your TRA for that. But there's a lot of information shared on our Facebook page. So even if you haven't registered with us yet, my suggestion is go on our Facebook page and look at the many pages on academic areas and phases and whatever else is there, and see the wealth of information that is shared. It's a good community to be a part of. Also, our website, something that's been developed extensively last year and I think is really good at this stage, is our frequently asked questions section. So if you go onto our website and you see our FAQ, frequently asked question, pretty much anything you can think of will be answered there, and if not, we update it fairly regularly. I did mention to you guided learning a little earlier and My Impaq. So these are our two primary platforms to engage with both you and the learner, to share content, to share assessments and so forth. I will be going through guided learning in a bit more detail in. Okay, academic support. So we have a team of dedicated subject experts. They're available to assist you with subject-related questions. Also, we will have guidance available on any new subjects that are introduced by the Department of Education. Something that's quite topical right now is coding and robotics. And we're pretty certain it will come in as a subject, or at least part of a subject going forward. And what we will have is our academic experts will be able to guide you with any changes that happen, and how we will be presenting that as a curriculum once that's been made formal and part of CAPS. Something again to bear in mind with the academic team, my suggestion is always first start with your TRA. We do have various email addresses available for various people, but as a tutor center or as a tutor, the TRA is there for a reason, and that means that you can much easier get in touch with the right people by working through them. So always start with your tutor support as your query, but be very specific about who it is and what you're trying to get hold of. Assessment services. So I have mentioned that all our assessments are available and regulated through my Impaq, and that material will be sent in for marking or moderation, so that can be sent. So something to bear in mind, most of our tutors will do most of the marking themselves. I did mention that grade 12, we do all of the assessment marking, and for grade 10 and 11, we do all of the exams. But we also offer the service that if you wish, you can send the stuff through for us to mark and to moderate as well. We also have a list of approved assessors for your FET phase, as you need to be a registered assessor in order to do a formal assessment, particularly matric. Ad hoc visits. So I mentioned to you that I'm missing my ad hoc visits and the physical visits, but it's something that as a center, it's useful to make use of, is that as consultants, we can come and see you. We'll do parents' evenings and speak to your parents about things that are of concern to you, both from the legal standpoint of what homeschooling is and what they need to do and what they need to do to support you as a tutor as well. We use these sessions also to make you and your tutors aware of anything that we offer and to reiterate how we're able to support you going forward. Again, I mentioned the webinars, and that's something that we will be giving detailed schedules on as we go forward, and even after lockdown and going forward into the coming years, I think it'll be a big part of how we communicate with and support you. Okay, what you'll see here, again, we have shared this with you, but this is your list of who your consultants are. As I mentioned, we are divided up according to region. If you send through a query to us, you can send it through to support@impaq.co.za as a more general address, but always specify where you are located, because who you get to will depend on where you are located. I did mention as well at the beginning that if you have not registered with us, you need to have received an application form as well as a couple of documents giving you some more information. If you have not received that yet, please put it in the question section, and then we'll make sure that we send you that information. Otherwise, you feel free to contact your consultant directly. Okay, Impaq's offering for 2020. First off, in terms of our curriculum, we offer the full CAPS curriculum. We do have some supplementary products, which I'll mention as we go forward, but whatever CAPS requires, that's what we supply. Something that does come up quite often in my discussions, I'm not sure if it comes up here, but I will mention it now. One of the things that CAPS requires is life orientation. We do offer the full life orientation curriculum. There is a component that is quite controversial and has been for some time, and that is the sex education component. The way that we view it is, first off, CAPS itself has not changed. So although the department has sent out addendums, CAPS is what we subscribe to, and that is therefore the curriculum that we have. If CAPS does officially change at some point going forward, what we will do is we'll make sure that any sensitive material is kept in the facilitator's guide, because this is homeschooling, and therefore the parent decides what can get taught and what needs to be shared. So for any of you that have this concern yourselves, or have parents that have this concern, you can reassure them that nothing will be shared with their children that they deem inappropriate, regardless of what happens with this section of CAPS. Okay. All products include downloadable assessment and support material. Parents can obtain quotations on the website. I think this is something that's quite important, is that you'll get a lot of questions around the costs. I will get into the costs in a sec as well, give you information on that. But for your parents, they can get a free quote from our website. It's no obligation at all. It's valid for a month, and it's quite a simple process for them to go through. So my suggestion is let them go through that if they are interested, let them generate a quote, and then they can see for themselves what it is that they'll be in for, and then decide there if they want to go forward. Yeah, there are few lesson material choices. So just to explain from the beginning how our curriculum works, we have three major components, as you will see over here through all of these. They are assessments, they are learner materials, and then they are facilitator materials. So as these are separate, you can see there are separate selections for each of them, but some of them are obligatory, which I'll explain in a sec. The first is assessment. So when they register for a curriculum, the assessment component will be ticked by default. They then decide, do we need to add the rest? So they can choose between facilitator books and learner books. For grade R to grade 9, facilitator books are compulsory if you take the curriculum. It's quite simply because homeschooling up till grade 9 requires that the parent is responsible, and therefore the parent needs a facilitator guide to say that they are responsible. And that's as simple as that. For grade 10 to 12, you do have the option of taking just the learner books without taking the facilitator books. For grade R to 3, you'll notice that you can choose a hard copy facilitator book or an ebook. You cannot choose an ebook for the learners for grade R to 3. We do not yet foresee digital learning for foundation phase. Unless something drastically changes in the technology, this is not quite appropriate for foundation phase, so therefore it's just for the facilitator book, hard copy or ebook. You'll notice when we go to the pricing section that there are differences in prices, so ebooks are generally cheaper. Just be aware when you're talking to parents about this. If the ebook is a facilitator guide, that's one thing because the parent's saying that they can use it, but be sure that the learner can use it before choosing an ebook for the learner to use. We have noticed in the past that many learners that actually do take an ebook go back and buy a hard copy book at a later stage because they're not used to working with it. You'll notice then in grade 4 to 9, there you can choose both a hard copy and ebook for both facilitators and for learners. And then grade 10, you will see that you cannot choose an ebook for either the learner or the facilitator. That is because we do not own all of the materials, and therefore we can't offer all of the materials in ebook format. We use outside publishers for many of our materials in that phase. Okay, pricing. You'll see this price list, as I mentioned, would have been shared with you if you received an email from one of your consultants, and also with the shared materials, you'll be able to access this. There's quite a range. You'll see the from and to. The reason for this range is that obviously assessment only is much cheaper. And then also the to, the most expensive range, is where you've taken assessment and you've taken hard copies and all of the materials for ebooks, for facilitators and for learners. So that'll give you an indication of what the range is and why it's there. But again, my suggestion is quite simple for your parents to go online and to get a non-obligatory quote. Please, I suggest that they do so. Okay, some of our additional products. So one of the things that we've brought in for this academic year is Zulu First Additional Language. We are planning on bringing in other first additional languages as well as other supplementary subjects, but it is a very long process to write a curriculum. So we cannot give you a timeline on that. What is interesting and exciting for me is to show that this is the way forward for us and that we will be making sure that we can offer value-adding services to our parents and tutors going forward. Something to bear in mind if you do take Zulu First Additional Language, we would suggest you don't take it in place of Afrikaans or English because there is no curriculum for grade 4, 5 and onwards, which would mean they would then need to switch to that. So rather see it as a supplementary subject for those that have the time and aptitude to do so. Okay, guided learning. So guided learning is a platform that we've been developing for some time. We're quite proud of where it is right now, but it is still very much in beta phase. So for those of you who are aware of software development, beta is very much a testing phase, but where we still allow use of the product. So we've made this available for free at this stage. It is very good as is, and I would recommend using it as a supplement to the books that we provide. It is definitely not a replacement for any of the books, but it is a very good supplement to assist learners, particularly focused on grade 10 to 12. We do have other grades available for certain subjects. I'll go into that in a little bit more, but the purpose at this stage is very much focused on your more senior learners. And as we develop the product, we will keep you informed where we can about developments, and it will become something quite substantial, we believe, going forward. Something that we know that we will be offering at some point is a facilitator view, which would be then the parent or the tutor. As a facilitator, as a tutor, you would want to access your own learners and to see where they are in their progression of their learning. It is something that we'd like to get out as soon as we can, but obviously a lot has happened in recent times, and we need to be very careful of where we focus our resources. We'll keep you informed as we make things available and as we get informed of where the development is at. For the learners, though, currently, let's just go through quickly what it is that they have available. So for those of you who already have learners and want to make use of guided learning, it's quite simple that they can actually access it from our website. There's a link that they can go through and open guided learning, and they'll only need their student number and ID number in order to log in. Once they log in, regardless of what phase they're in, they'll be able to see what subjects are they registered for with us. Now, all of the learners will have access to a calendar to be able to see what it is that they need to do and so forth. But the big thing about this is the additional content that we supply. So currently we have 100% completion for math literacy grade 10 to 12. And then we also have 100% mathematics grade 8 to 12. And I think this is quite important. One of the supplementary products that I'll mention and go through is Kami. And Kami is a software for practicing whatever subjects we are trying to practice. Mathematics is a very important subject to practice. So we already have Kami Web available, and that is brilliant for your grade R's to grade 7s to remotely access resources to practice. But for your grade 8s to 12s, we have a full mathematics content available to assist them in further understanding what they need to do with the subject. The way that the content works is that the learners will have access to videos that will explain a more difficult concept. They will have access to quizzes that they can do to make sure they've understood the concept, as well as various PDF documents and so forth to further explain more difficult concepts, and access to practice papers and things like that. Some of the other subjects that have some content, so business studies, grade 11, you can see we will share this with you. So this is an ever-changing thing where as we are updating more and more content coming in. But yeah, you can see here that we have quite a bit of additional content as well. We also have for life orientation, history, tourism, and as I say, we are building this out as we go. Another service provided through the guided learning platform to your learners is access to our dedicated tutors. So how that works is your learner will become stuck with a question. They post the question, and then for the subjects that we have this available, as we've mentioned there, they will have a very quick response from a subject specialist to be able to assist them with whatever they are stuck. A very important thing with this is that these questions are archived. So when the learner goes back to this and they are studying at some point, they can then see whatever question they asked and how it was answered, and if it was explained, what they need to do to go through it. Okay, we also have our Impaq Campus. Sorry. This is based in Gauteng. Those of you in Gauteng may well have already heard of Impaq Campus. The purpose of the campus is to provide supplementary services. Most of you will not necessarily need to make use of this directly, but it's good to know that if you need to, we have a formal campus where the curriculum that you are teaching is being done. We have specialists that can assist you with any questions that you have, and provide services as listed here for exam preparation, writing of exams, and so forth. Okay, some supplementary products. Here, let me actually go back one. Sorry. I mentioned to you that coding and robotics is becoming a big thing and will likely be part of our curriculum at some point going forward. In the meantime, we at Optimi have taken the initiative and decided that we'd like to be ahead of the curve, and we'd like to figure out what this is going to be about, and therefore give our parents and our tutors a chance to play. Because the best way to learn about something like this is to play with it and to use it. So we've partnered with Lego Robotics and Coding. We've done this specifically for grade 1 to 5. We are planning on growing that out to more senior grades, but at this stage, the available grade 1 to 5 package is very good for anyone to start with. I have a kit, my grade 10 son. He enjoys using it, even though he gets through it a lot quicker than what you would expect your grade 1 to 5s. It's still useful for anyone who wants to get a basic understanding of how the coding and robotics will work, and particularly for you as tutors to get used to what this will be as a subject. So the way that the Lego system works, it comes with a kit available on our website for purchase. It's a once-off cost, so it's not part of your normal registration process. And it's also not an annual thing. You purchase the full kit for 3,500 Rand, and then you also have access to a program that you use then to actually do the coding. And it's quite fun and simple. Is that there's a lot of resources on the program itself for teachers in terms of ideas about how to do certain lessons, and how-to guides for dummy, really, on how to run through the system. But you'll find that the children, once they get started, are able to pretty much lead the process themselves. If those of you familiar with Lego, it's typical Lego instructions telling you, take this piece, put it on that piece, and then you build the thing that it tells you to build. And then the coding component, it guides the child step by step with instructions to make the thing they've built do something. So you can imagine now, especially for young boys, but we really encourage the girls to get involved with this too. And what I'm finding is that this is a huge field or a huge way to get girls excited about coding and robotics, which is going to be a massive industry at some point in the very near future. In terms of that coding, as I say, it's quite simple. They just follow a drag and drop type guide, and then they can make the little Mars rover drive forward or drive backwards, or they can make the fan turn at different speeds and so forth. And later on, they can then use what they've learned in terms of how to build something and how to program it to do something to answer more open-ended questions, such as what could you build and what would you need to make it do in order to solve this problem. So it is an exciting way to get them involved. It is easy to do, and it's very beneficial in teaching them the critical skills that we need for this fourth industrial revolution that is now clearly on our doorstep. Okay, I know Susanna has mentioned that we will have a questions section at the end. So if anyone does have questions about any of these things, coding and robotics and whatever else that I'm discussing, please ask either on the side or at the end when we get to our questions section. Okay, another thing that we offer as a supplementary product to our parents and students and tutors is our suite of Kami practice software. So many of you may be aware, but Kami has been around for quite some time. As Optimi, we have purchased Kami. We are making use of a very, very widely used and well appreciated legacy system, and that is available to our tutors. But we've also gone and rebuilt Kami and modernized it into what we would call the Kami web version. So you have a physical software that can be downloaded onto a laptop and used offline, but you also have a product called Kami Web, which can then be used from learners anywhere on pretty much any device. The Kami Web is only available at this stage up until grade 7. We obviously do want to build Kami Web out to cover all grades, but it is a long process, and we will keep our tutors and parents informed as to where we're at. But right now, we have a fully fledged grade R to 7 product, which is really, really good. And I would encourage you to go on our website and have a look. We actually have an offer where you may use the software for free. I think that may have expired. Susanna, if you can just clarify that with me, to check on that. But it is definitely something worth looking into. What I would suggest, rather than us doing too much detail on that now, is that if you are interested in looking at the Kami Web product, to let us know on the side, and we will contact you for a more detailed discussion in person. The other Kami product that we have, which we call Kami EduSuite, this is an offline version of Kami, and it's available from grade R through to grade 12 with a lot of detail. There are 4 various software packages that you get as part of the suite. The pricing, I'm not sure if we have a slide on the pricing, but I'll check on that now and make sure that we'll share the pricing with you. But we have various pricing options for the suite, which include all 5 of these programs. So they are maths, reader, science, literacy, and perceptual skills. Sorry, I changed the slide there. I just need to shrink that. Let's see. Sorry about that. Okay, so the Kami Maths is probably one of our most popular products in terms of the Kami suite. As we all know, practicing maths is critically important in order to master any of the concepts. The way that the software works is that you can choose whether you're going to plot a course based on the grade, or whether you'd like them to follow work on particular sections or terms or so forth. So you have quite a bit of flexibility on where they need to be focusing. And the system itself is quite intelligent in that it's built with a concept called adaptive learning. Adaptive learning is the system can be set to understand, if it will understand is a big word, but it can be set to pick up that a child is struggling with a certain set of questions, and therefore it'll lower the difficulty and take them to a previous difficulty, or it'll pick up that they're getting through it quite easily and therefore raise the difficulty. And this is quite important when we're allowing children to work at their own pace, which is a key component of what this does. It doesn't require too much intervention from you as a facilitator, other than setting what tasks you would like them to do, and then they go ahead and do the activities themselves. This runs through all of the various software programs, but it is an important part to understand why you would want this system. So as a tutor, our tutors then either use this for their existing children, or they use it as an after-school thing where they actually coordinate with schools. And you can do this as an additional service where you charge children to come to your facility and are able to do exercises in maths, reading, science, literacy, and perceptual skills. Again, just as with the Kami Web, what my suggestion would be, rather than spending what could easily be an hour going into the wonderful features of each of these programs, is that if you would like us to contact you to discuss what the programs can offer and what their pricing are, please again let us know in the questions, and yeah, we'll get back to you very, very quickly. Okay. Okay, registration costs and referral fees. So for those of you that have not yet registered as a tutor with Impaq, this will be quite important to you. Those of you that have, please remember that you do get these referral fees. I often come across tutors that say, oh, do I have money? Yes, you have money sitting in an account waiting to be spent. I mentioned to you that I encourage you to make use of the online registrations. Yes, for the trees. Yes, because it takes a lot of time for us to process physical forms, but also you do get more money by doing this. So it is definitely worth it to encourage it for your parents. We often have parents that struggle to do anything online, and many of our tutors will actually have a specific day available where they can come in and they can assist them. But bear in mind, the parent still needs to register with us. You cannot register as a parent as a tutor. The parent registers for the curriculum with us, and you can just maybe guide them through that process. You get 3% for manual registrations, 6% for online. The cost of registration, there's a once-off initiation fee of 500 Rand. So for those of you who have not done this yet, you should have received an application form, or you will receive an application form along with a very detailed email explaining what tutoring is about and what we do, much like we have in this presentation. What we need in return, and it's quite simple, is a completed application form, initialed on each page, fully signed on the bottom with your details, the details of the owner of the center, as well as any tutors that you may wish to link. along with a copy of the owner's ID and a copy of the center or the owner's proof of banking details. The reason for this, FICA requirement, we're supposed to know these banking details in order to pay money over to you, and it's as simple as that. Once we have all 4 of those documents, we process it quickly. Within a few days, you will get an email from your TRA telling you welcome, and a phone call welcoming you, giving you a little bit of a guidance as to how to go forward, as well as answering any questions you may have. And then from there on, as I mentioned, that TRA is a critical part of how you engage with Impaq going forward. Okay, we've covered quite a bit of information. I know that Suzanne is still available to answer any questions as well. So at this stage, I think maybe if I can just hand over back to Suzanne, if someone could assist me with that.
You can leave that slide up. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Suzanne, will you answer the questions and yeah, take it from there?
Absolutely, but I'll pull you in. I'll pull you in when
pull me in if needed. But if I have to run this, I might just cancel the meeting by mistake.
I see that there's a couple of hands raised. So I'll start going to those hands that's been raised for a very long time. So Faith, I see that your hand is raised. Faith, would you like to ask a question? Hi, Faith.
Hello.
Hi, yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yes. All right. No, I think my question was actually answered. We are actually, yes, because we are an independent school. So I just wanted to, ask for myself and maybe on behalf of others to say, where do you guys fit in when it comes to Sakai Malusi Department of Education, and if one is affiliated with Impaq?
Okay. Well, Brad, actually, that slide
Should I go to the next slide?
Next slide. Yes. Great question. Thanks, Faith. Let's
I was anticipating this.
Yes, you're welcome to do that one. So thank you for that question, Faith. So where we fit in. So at the moment, there's 3 main assessment bodies in South Africa, and all 3 of these assessment bodies answer to umalusi. So for a national senior certificate to be awarded to a learner in the grade 10 to 12 phase, because the department sees that as an entire phase, at that end of the phase, the final examination is overseen and approved by umalusi. And there's 3 main assessment bodies. IEB, mainly private schools that's registered, or independent schools that's registered with the IEB as an assessment body. Then we have the Department of Education, where mainly mainstream schools, and then obviously there's Sakai. Now, Sakai is the body that oversees and manages home education. Impaq is registered with Sakai. That is an annual registration that we need to do. So if anyone wants to have the proof of the registration, we have our certificate that we annually get from Sakai, and this obviously enables us to be able to do grade 10 to 12 via distance education, and be able to make sure that our grade 12 learners gets, at the end of their grade 12 year, also an umalusi approved certificate for their final examination. Okay, so I hope that answers it. Nicole, I see you also have your hand raised. So Nicole, you're welcome to continue. Nicole, I see you are muted on your end. Let me move on to the next question. Prince, I see that you have your hand raised. Prince, you're welcome.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, my question is that I'm running an independent school, and I needed to know whether is it possible to have part of your platform branded with our logo for our learners that are asking us to be enrolled with us for homeschooling. Is it possible to have that, or it can only be done using the Impaq logo?
Prince, let me perhaps just understand that question. You want our logo, or
Our logo as a school? I'm running an accredited independent school.
yes, and you want for on the Impaq system your logo as well?
Yes, is it possible?
I am unfortunately not certain. I don't know whether that is possible at the moment. Prince, would you mind just sending us your contact details, and then we'll just ask the development team about that, whether that is something that's possible. I don't think it has been done yet, but do contact us. Let's see what is possible in terms of that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Susan.
Okay, pleasure. Kobe, I see that your hand has also been raised for quite a while. I've unmuted you, Kobe. You're welcome to ask your question. Hallo, Kobe.
My hand is nie grys aan my kant nie.
O, ek sien daar sy nou af. Toe man,
Hy's rooi en moet hy rooi of groen wees, want hy's rooi die hele tyd.
die handjie as hy in die lig is hy rooi. Maar dit is reg, moet glad nie bekommer nie. Ek het hom nou af.
Goed reg, dankie.
Reg. Ayla Pinar, I see that your hand is also raised. Ayla, you're welcome to ask your question. Hi, Ayla. Perhaps Ayla's hand is also raised in error. Ayla, if you do have a question, you're welcome to still raise your hand. If there's anyone else that would like to ask a question, you're more than welcome to raise your hand. Let's see. I see there's also quite a number of questions in the question box, so let me move to that for a moment. If a child is still in a public school, let me just open this a little bit bigger that I can read it properly. If a child is still in a public school and just want tutor services, do they need to buy a package from Impaq? And what must I get as a tutor? Must I, for example, buy the facilitator guide for every child that I tutor, or just get one set, for example, grade 1? So let me first just answer the question in terms of a child in public school. As you remain an independent business, you tutor that learner for the work that they require services for. If it's a learner in a public school, chances are that they are using a particular curriculum in that school at the moment. So best would be to work with that curriculum that that learner is using. Otherwise, it does become confusing for those kids. In terms of the facilitator's guides, it is not necessary to have a facilitator guide for every single learner. Remember, the parents purchase their own package. So the parent needs to purchase a learner's guide and a facilitator's guide. The parent needs to show that they are the primary responsible party for home education. But you, as the facilitator, as a tutor in this instance, can obviously buy a set to assist the learners in your tutor center if you have more than one learner that requires assistance with a particular subject or particular subject area. I see that there's a question from Donovan. He says, if the national lockdown gets lifted on the 30th of April, will tutor centers with a capacity of less than 25 learners be allowed to open and continue with operation and tutoring? Donovan, again, this question, and I keep on going back to the fact that Impaq does not own tutor centers. We don't manage or legislate or any of those kind of ownership roles of a typical franchise or even of the owner of a center. So we can't put legislation forward in terms of this. So what is important to know as a tutor is that you need to look at your particular business and you need to look at the guidelines given by the Department of Education and the guidelines that the government would give. If the government says that more than 25 learners should not be together, then you have more than 25, then you should absolutely adhere to what the government says. Impaq will not make available a statement saying that tutor centers can open now, because technically you as a tutor, and this falls again back into the law, provide supplementary services to the parent. So the you should be having a conversation with the parent in terms of what kind of services do they expect, what level of services do they expect, what is that you can offer them. It's a conversation and agreement between you and the parent and not something that Impaq dictates. I hope that answers it. Then I see that someone asks, oh gosh, I see that one disappeared. For grade R, are there limitations on the learners to assist per tutor? Again, Marissa, there's no guidelines in terms of this. It's not a school. We don't have specific guidelines in terms of this. I would again suggest speak to other tutors. Do ask them how they manage it. But remember, at the end of the day, this is a conversation between you and the parent. So you can decide to offer small classes where there's 2 or 3 or 5 kids at a particular time where you assist those learners, or you can decide to offer one-on-one tutoring services. And obviously, your price will be dependent on the kind of services you offer for that particular learner. Is it possible to find out how many registered tutor centers are around a specific area? Charlene, we do have a place on our website. Once you are registered as a tutor to make use of our products and services, you have the option to be listed on our website. Now, even though there are some tutors that prefer not to be listed, the majority of tutors are listed on that site. And you can do an easy search per area that you are in to see which tutors are within that particular area. I see there's another question on lockdown. Lockdown and the virus scare created a huge opportunity for homeschooling. Is Impaq going to do some mass media marketing to promote homeschooling? Hannes, not necessarily traditional marketing. We do a lot more online marketing at this stage, and I think Marika is almost more equipped than what I am in terms of answering this. But we do a lot of online marketing at the moment, so we are making use of the opportunity to get word out there that learners can actually continue studying from home. It's not necessary to be in a complete panic. So we are trying to get the word out there. I see Yuki asks, do I understand correctly that as a registered tutor, I can tutor mainstream children from government schools? Yuki, absolutely. You can register whomever, you can tutor whichever learner you would like to tutor. This is your business. You run your business. You offer the service you choose to offer. So the registration with Impaq doesn't mean that we suddenly owe you or that you're only allowed to provide the curriculum and products and services that we have. You can decide if you want to keep on tutoring learners outside of that scope as well. It's completely up to you. I see that Patricia says that I have been temporarily approved as an invigilator and need to pass the test, but I have not received the link as yet. Will we still be able to qualify this for the June examinations? Yes, Patricia. We know that that the link is due and it has to be sent out very quickly. The assessment team is working very hard in getting this done. It is another compliance that came in from Umalusi's side requesting us to have some kind of an online test, but it's not a difficult test that would be done. It's really in terms of the compliance, the rules and the regulations, and it can easily still get done before the June examination. So don't be afraid. We are aware that invigilators are waiting on this, and we'll send it out as soon as we can. The term 2 test dates for grade 10 to 12 starts tomorrow till 29 April. How do we do that, seeing that it's still lockdown? Anina, a lot of the tutors are continuing and a lot of the parents are continuing. So they are continuing with tests at home. Remember, this is not the examination as yet. So we are trying to still get the learners to do their tests, to at least continue with some of the work. We know that there will be instances where learners will struggle because they don't have internet access or their only access are at the tutor. We have seen a lot of the tutors actually sending via WhatsApp, sending some of the tests to the learners if they don't have access. Those kids do it on papers, they take photos of it, they send it back. There are so many ways that we've now, through this period, seen how people interact with one another, how learners interact with their tutors, or how they even do it at home. Because remember, for the term test, these learners can still do it at home. It's the examination that becomes really strict and where there must be an invigilator. So if you can continue, do continue. Obviously, once we have better clarity on the way forward, we would be able to give more information. And this links to your next question, Anina, in terms of will exams still start on the 5th of May? We did send out communication initially when the first lockdown was called that the dates have been postponed for a week. So that means the examination starts on the 12th of May. At the moment, the timetable is literally just shifted on a week, where it used to be from the 5th of May, it is now from the 12th of May. That hasn't changed so far. I know that there's been discussions with Sakai and more discussions happened this afternoon because Sakai obviously now needs guidance from Umalusi. If we just go back to the explanation of where Impaq fits in and where Umalusi oversees this entire process, we are of the opinion that whatever happens in the mainstream schools, that the same needs to pull through to the home education learners, because at the end of the day, it needs to be the same report card, the same national senior certificate that those grade 12s receive at the end of this year. So the same rules need to apply. So we are awaiting on Sakai to give better guidance in terms of this, whether the examination will be moved, whether there will be a combination between the examination and the prelims, especially where the grade 12s are concerned, but we are awaiting further information from Sakai. At the moment, the date is the 12th of May to start with those exams. I see that there's a question from Melanie. Can anyone be an invigilator, or do you have to have come from a teaching background? It must be preferably someone from a teaching background. It needs to be a commissioner of oath. It needs to be a registered teacher with a SACE certificate. There are certain regulations in terms of what that invigilator needs to be. It doesn't need to be a subject specialist particular. That is more in terms of the assessors. We do allow tutors that is registered to make use of our products and services can also apply to become an invigilator. So if you are at any time uncertain, please send an email to assessments@impaq.coza and they can look at your credentials and notify you whether you are able to register as an invigilator or not. Let me see if there's perhaps another question. I see there's lots of requests for more information to be sent, and I'm pretty sure that the team will be right on it. That I see there's also a couple of hands raised, so I'll go back to the hands for a moment. Let me see. Leanne Fourie, you are unmuted. You're welcome to ask your question.
Hi there. Sorry, I'm actually Anne's husband. We joined a bit late. We just want to find out how we go about in registering for a tutor center. Is there a list of rules and regulations that you need to follow and those type of things?
It's actually not a massive rules and regulations. I think the best would be to follow these slides in the handouts. But my suggestion would be that one of the consultants gets in contact with you. If you don't mind, then we'll get Rihanna's team to contact you personally and go through all of the slides and all of the detail that you need to be able to register.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Sorry, Suzanne, do we have the details?
Yes, Marika will have their details. So Marika can share the details with you, or I'm going to say Leanne again, even though it's Leanne's husband. I never got your name. If you want us to send it to a particular address, if you want us to contact you by telephone, which would actually be first price, please just send Marika your contact details. Marika emailed us all the slides, so you have her email address. Please be in contact. Then I see Busi has his hand raised. Busi, you are unmuted at the moment? Or is that Bussy? It's Bussy 27 Eysterpark. This looks like someone's address. So I'm not certain the home address in Teresa Park, but I see it's muted on your side. So okay, I'm just going to go back here then. Oh, there we, it was almost. Hi, Teresa Park from Eysterpark. Would you like to ask a question? Okay, let's move on. Then I see there's another hand raised. Kobe van Sail, your hand is raised. Kobe, you are unmuted.
Antie, my gaan op my moet afwees, hoor.
Okay, don't worry. If there's another question or two, you're welcome to ask. Okay, let's just see if we see 27 Eysterpark. Would you like to ask a question? I see that hand is raised. Okay. So I see that there was a number of questions in the question box. If there's no further questions, then that can round up today's session. Please still send us the questions, any questions that you may have. I know that the lockdown has created a lot of uncertainties. Please do be in contact with us. Whenever we have information available, we will make it available to you as soon as we can. Be in contact with your consultant, be in contact with your tutor relationship administrator for those who are registered. You already have someone that you can be in contact with. I see that there's just a couple of more questions in the question box. I'll quickly answer those and then we can round up today's session. I see that there's a question from Stephanie saying, I want to know if there is any age restriction for tutors. I'm 59 now. No, there's no restrictions there. You can absolutely still tutor if you are a tutor of a certain age. It really doesn't matter. A foundation phase teacher of that age comes with a wealth of information, and I'm sure that you can assist parents wonderfully. So that should not be a problem at all. And then I see Anina asked, we had several calls for grade 10 to 12s to come to us, but the registration dates has passed already. Will the registration dates for grade 10 to 12 be extended? Grade 12 dates cannot be extended, unfortunately. Those dates have closed. The registration with Sakai has already been done. Grade 10 and 11 learners, the registration closed on the 21st. What is today? I think I'm losing count of dates with the lockdown. The 21st, so it did close today. However, those are for learners who has no report card, where the learner has not been to any kind of school this year. For learners who's been to school, but it's now they want to join the second term, they want to move over to home education, they can still enroll. You are welcome to send an email to info@impaq.co.za and we can assist with that. But also do keep in mind that there's, I think the date is by the end of this month, where we close the grade 10 and 11 registrations, as obviously that all of those registrations needs to go through Sakai as well. So there we see it brings us to the end of today's presentation. Thank you so much for spending this afternoon with us, this afternoon leading into evening already. We truly appreciate your attendance. If you have any questions, be in contact with us. We are here to support you. Even though it's locked down, we aren't locked down completely. We might be all working from our homes, but we are still in contact with you. Brad, thank you for assisting with the presentation today. Marika and Rihanna, even though we haven't seen your faces, we know that you are there and that you have assisted and answered all of the questions as well. Thank you so much. Goodbye.